Ladies and gentlemen, we are here now to understand the role play of digital transformation in the financial world. And our speaker who's joining us is the very seasoned Sirisha Voruganti, the managing director from JP Morgan Chase. So, Sirisha, allow us to warmly welcoming you, and here's handing it over to you.
Thanks, Shika, for the very warm welcome, and good afternoon to all the participants. I'm very excited to be here this afternoon to share my views on digital transformation in the financial world. I'd like to step back a bit and underline the word transformation for a moment. Right. For some of you, that have seen the journey over many years, I'd like to give a couple of examples as we talk transformation. Let's talk about buying a car, right? Many years ago, you probably didn't have as many choices in the market as you have today. You had two brands, an Ambassador and a Fiat. You didn't have as many models. And our parents, if they, were really looking at buying the car, pretty much saved through their entire lifetime and already decided on which car to buy. And so they just, went over just before retirement and perhaps got a car which they used for the rest of time. The same for a house as well in those days. Now, there were other examples too that I'd like to give and talk about transformation, right? You talk about going to a grocery store and the entire experience. Your parents probably knew a grocery store and the vendor of the grocery store. And he knew, y'all as well. And he had the grocery ready for you. So you went there every weekend, Saturday, for you to go pick it up, right? And if you were representing your parents and going to the grocery store, you just had to go, take the grocery and come back home. And he probably wrote it down in a logbook. Or if your parents, if it was your parents that went in, they paid cash across the counter and took the grocery. A very, very simplistic buying experience, right, from a consumer standpoint. Let's also look at a few others, and maybe we've seen many generations of this ourselves when the communication devices and how that has matured, right? Earlier, it was really those dial phones that you had if you had to talk to people, or even before that, it was the inland letters and, the cards that you wrote. And when you were studying or early jobs and whatever, and people at home were okay with that. I mean, once a month, they got an inland letter from you and you communicated pretty much everything that you had to the extent you could. And that was fine. And then we came in the generation of the early phones where you could text. So people were vociferously texting home, to tell about their whereabouts, what they're doing, and so on. And then came the next generation, WhatsApp. Here you could take images, you could talk about what's happening in your life, show videos, and so on, right? And now it's the age of Snapchat. And we've seen all of that where you're talking about changed consumer behavior of sorts. Now, why did I talk about all of that? Is to really talk and get you to this transformed era that we are in. So now if we fast forward to 2021, what has happened? You look at the devices. It's the age of the smart device, right? Everybody, including your 10-year-old at home, potentially has a smartphone. And these devices have enormously improved technology, and that's followed the Moore's law. All of us know that. We've seen what's happened with respect to audio, video, and many more that you can do on these devices, right? The second is the network itself, the advancement in the network technologies, which is primarily, provided by the network providers. We've moved from voice only to voice and data to high-speed data. So we've seen the evolution of 2G, 3G, 4G, and now 5G technologies. Now, what has all this entailed, right? This advancement in technology and the convenience really in, of near real-time everything is actually in your mobile digital world is pushing us to provide more and more newer and newer experiences to consumers. And what is the consumer expecting? Actually, he's expecting a shopping nirvana, I think, on his mobile device. right? Faster, quicker, safer, cheaper, and better on the way he accesses things, the way he does commerce, everything on that device, right? And now I'll talk about two experiences again, to talk about where things are and how society today has McDonaldized, if I may use that word. Everything is fast. People are not, you are no longer talking about waiting in a queue to do an STD call, right? In our younger days, where you got maybe it was a fourth of the cost, to a normal day. So you stood in these long queues to do that STD call, or your grandmother or your mom at home was calling the banker and waiting for 30 minutes for the banker to come online and give you advice. But today, in this changed, the McDonaldized world, everything has to be fast. Customers expect it to be fast. And how have experiences changed? For instance, if you today want to travel in an airline, and it's not just us, right? I mean, the next generation as well. You'd like to use your fingerprint so that the merchant, whoever that is, an airline company, a shopping a shop or whatever, knows who you are, a casino that you're entering potentially, knows who you are, and is able to provide a very personalized experience to you, whether it is the food that you eat, the seat that you get. Everything has to be personalized. And that's what each one of us likes in this transformed world. The other example that I want to give you is, how things have changed. There are a number of merchants. We are a large bank, and we have an ecosystem that we've created, and there are multiple merchants that you work with. For instance, if there is a customer that's going into a store or into a casino, and there is a co-branded card that this particular merchant offers, gone are the days when somebody would fill out a form, wait for a week, wait for the card to come to you, and then use the card and the benefits or rewards that the card entails. Today, what is the scenario? You would actually, consumers would actually like to fill out a virtual form, get authenticated by the card company or the bank automatically in near real time, and be able to use the card in real time and gain points in real time. So the whole change and the transformation that we see is it's pretty much real time everything. And the changes that we're seeing in the networks, in the devices, are actually enabling a lot of this for consumers, right? So it's not just about the consumer and and what the consumer wants and what this ecosystem is providing. There have also been like the pandemic today, which have accentuated some of these changes in the market. And I'll come to those in a bit. In addition to all of that, right, there is tremendous competition in the market in terms of, the number of banks that are providing services, the number of fintechs that are out there providing these edge, these at the edge services, right, or the nuances that customers would love to have on their devices. And customers too, their expectation has gone up, right, in terms of ubiquitous experience in the shop, in the aisle, in your basement, perhaps, or online. So you move any device, you would expect a ubiquitous shopping experience or a ubiquitous experience on any of the on any of the transactions that you're trying to make. So it's actually become device agnostic and channel agnostic in terms of the expectations that customers have, and that's gone a notch further with everything connected, right? Whether it is and each of these have actually become data centers too, in my opinion. So if it is in your kitchen, in connected homes where you'd like to shop from, if it is from your gaming station, your smart television, or, including your car, each of these is becoming a commerce device. Right? And this is the world or age of connected commerce. So we're talking about connected home, connected car, connected stadium, connected healthcare, all of this really coming together. And this is the sort of transformation that we are looking at in the industry. Now, the consumer puts it very simplistically, right? He says, faster, quicker, better, safer, and lower cost. Now, each one of these words that I just stated, and most of you would know that, is a super loaded statement in terms of the changes that need to happen at the back end. right? Now, when we're talking about faster, we're talking about better architecting of systems. It could be the large monoliths that you have, where you're breaking those monoliths, going in for autonomous, microservices-based architectures. It also talks about how you're managing your data, how you're ingesting data, how you're processing data, how you're retrieving your data, how you're storing data. And are you storing data in high cost systems, or are you storing it on the cloud, on premise or on the cloud, in terms of access of data and just being able to bring your overall run costs down. It's also about, so as I said, it's architecture and data are big. Infrastructure is the third one, which is another super big, one about the on-prem and the on-cloud piece. It also is about your test strategies. It's also about how you're developing code, right? Are you, really able to doing these large coordinated releases, or are you autonomous enough to be able to release anytime following the CI/CD process and so on? So, though it is a very simplistic term in terms of, let's bring the cost down, there are so many of these things at the back end from a technology standpoint that we have to look at to ensure those experiences. Again, I think what has this, this new age really taught us? It's taught us that there cannot be any single entity that can create and provide all of this. It's really about ecosystems that you are able to create, whether it is the merchant, the network companies, the device companies, and so on. And these partnerships and these ecosystems become extremely, extremely important as we kind of move forward. Right. It's also about, the network and the enhancements on the payments network itself, right? Where you're able to, as I said, provide ubiquitous experiences anywhere, not just in country, but even if you're traveling in another country, you should be able to have the same sort of experience. And these are actually leading to enhancing commerce. And personalization has been another super big one, right? Where every transaction that you make, you'd like it to be super personal. There are also other technologies that are part of this larger digital transformation that we're talking about. Now, a few of these that I can that I can think of. I mean, for those of you that have used Apple Pay, it's probably one of the first technologies that has used tokenization. And there's been a lot of learning from many other companies and industries from tokenization, right? We use that for wallets today. You use that in cross-border payments. You use that, and you're using tokenization everywhere. Or if it is things like the bin strategy, right? And why are these important? When you talk about real-time payments, when you're talking about, being able to do faster, these become important because, you need to recognize the card company, the bin number is what you see on your card, right? And it identifies the card company, it identifies that entire ecosystem that you have. And so bin strategies become superlatively important. Now, all of these at the back end need to really come together to be able to provide these experiences. Now, the lower cost piece, right? And that's where testing and all of that becomes super important in terms of how you're managing automated testing, how you're doing distributed development, how you're doing your repays, how you're actually ensuring that your network downtime is absolutely, absolutely low, right? And you are able to provide the 6 nines in terms of resiliency for customers. This is super important because the moment you're able to reduce your run costs, you're able to spend a lot, you're able to release faster, you're able to get newer experiences in this extremely, competitive world faster to customers. And at the same time, you're able to contain your costs and use a lot of that dollar. You can give it back to the consumer, right? In terms of transaction costs reducing, as well as investing that in building your ecosystem and providing newer experiences. So that is a lot of change that we have seen. Now, another aspect that has accentuated change in the current day, and whoever expected this, right, is the COVID-19 pandemic. And what have we seen during this pandemic? I know many economic journals have actually talked about a 5% reduction in the in the global economy during this year. But the one thing that COVID has transformed is forced adoption of the online and mobile channels. Now, if you look at what has happened on these channels, right? Transactions have gone up from 40 to 150% on these channels. So it's really forced digitization and the adoption of digital channels. We saw that during the demonetization time in India, right, where it went up 65%. Now, COVID has only helped take that further. It has also enhanced mobile banking. Everybody, like I said, you want to do everything from the device that you have. It has also, pushed data analysis and big data in a big way in terms of the personalization and all of that, right? Because you really are looking at more and more of that even during these times. And it has also brought in a lot more around automated wealth management and things like that, right? Because you were not really, you were operating with 50% staff, perhaps in offices and things like that. So you were using a lot of these wealth bots to, advise customers on wealth management. So these are some of the changes that COVID has actually pushed, right? Now, with all of this, and the entire scenario that I have given you so far, the way I look at the financial world, and I look at the at the ask for newer services and experiences, and what has that done at the back end, and some of the trends as I would see it in the coming days is one, transactions are going to continue to be touchless. You're probably going to use QR or camera on the phone, or the tap of payments and so on and so forth. So that is going to continue, and I believe we'll have more and more innovation in that space, because that's going to be super transformative. Finance is, we'll probably be doubling down into providing more insights and service personalization for customers. I think that's another things that we have happening around data, right? Whether it is techniques like data mesh or data on edge or whatever it is, it's going to be focused on enhanced personalization for customers. Now, we talked a little about real time. So it's going to be everything in real time, including, the regulatory reporting, whatever it will have to be. So there will be more and more focus on that aspect of everything in real time, whether it is consumer experiences or things at the back end potentially. Be the norm. So there'll be many, many solutions, as I would see, around self-service and what we can offer to customers. And there are also, we talked a little about the ecosystem, right? The merchants, the customers, and how things are changing, and the network providers and device companies and so on. They're going to be newer and newer operating models that will come in because of the ecosystem and the way the ecosystem works with each other to ensure that there is no one party that is unduly, affected or impacted badly in the ecosystem. And we will also see, I think, and that's where I talked about the fintech ecosystem earlier in terms of how we design and deliver newer services. I think there's going to be a huge role that the fintechs will continue to play as we provide, better services to customers and newer customer experiences. There's going to be a continued focus around microservices based architectures, right? So, in terms of how do we provide autonomous experiences? How can we quickly make changes, and how can we release that as quickly so that we're not losing out market windows, really, as well as changes can be made faster, easier, and, as we kind of roll out newer experiences. And I believe we'll see a boom there. Data, I believe, will continue. I mean, there'll be a lot of data proliferation for all the experiences that we talk about. And the focus on this will be absolute. And the other thing that I would see is, the newer experiences that we're talking about for customers. More than that, as far as the ecosystem is concerned, itself is concerned, right? You will also see a lot of standardization, more around platforms, as well as, designing together to enhance rather than with no interference. Right, so all of that is where I would believe the financial world is going to go to. So with that, I mean, these were a couple of thoughts that I had in terms of digital transformation in the financial segment, and just to provide one experience how easy or difficult it is at the back end. And it is not just a one entity being able to provide all of this, but there's going to be a huge focus on creating those ecosystems. And guys like us will probably have to open more and more sandboxes where we open our network, and we have many players coming in to create such experiences. So that's about all I had to share this afternoon. Thank you.
Sirisha, thank you very much for your thematic talk. I would say that took us quickly through the unique challenges and the opportunities businesses face in the financial world as they, of course, strive collaboratively, in your words, to drive innovation within their organization. So thank you very, very much. Appreciate you joining us. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, if there was an important key takeaway from Sirisha's session for you all, make sure that you pick up your mobile phones or whichever gadgets you would please do and use the hashtag ETGDI Summit. I would just take a quick second here to read out a tweet from Mohan Krishna 311. Thank you for saying that I am participating at hashtag ETGDI Summit. Let's catch up. Exactly. That's what you all need to do. Please go at the networking experience that's in store for you and connect with your fellow colleagues. If I, sort of browse ahead, I have Vishal Rode saying attending session at the summit. So that's very, very warm seeing all those tweets coming in from the Twitterati. So keep it all going, the momentum, and of course, everything that you can do in terms of winning prizes and of course learning a lot also actionably at the platform. Well, a panel discussion awaits your attention right in just some time from now. This would be about redefining the relationship between, of course, keeping the track that we are in mind, the sales, the marketing, and of course, we cannot separate the technology. So all three put together, we'll have a discussion. Be right back. Allow me to just rope in